we intend to continue to improve operating expenses as a percentage of revenue over time. And we're continuing to take cost out of our products and try to keep gross margins at a place that's healthy as well. And so, from the hardware perspective of the business, it's our expectation that we'll continue to stay in a healthy place over time. And then there's a software portion that's added on top of that. And so Elon has commented on this many times about the impact that full self-driving software can have on the economics of the business. And in that space, profitability, operating margins would be impacted dramatically. Specifically to your point about CapEx guidance, the intent of that slide was not to provide specific guidance, but to just be transparent about internally what our rough estimates are and to provide context that we think getting to 20 million vehicles per year and 1 terawatt hour of energy storage is very feasible relative to our expected cash generation for the business. That's a number that will move as we learn. We may choose to vertically integrate more into things. We may find efficiencies elsewhere. To the whole conversation we were having earlier about do we do mining, do we not do mining. But the entire point is to say that this is something that's entirely possible based upon our forecast.
Regarding the multi-trip reconstruction, my point I was trying to make was that we want to auto-label most of the data, and we can collect data from the fleet and then reconstruct local areas that can act as supervision for those clips. Since we want to build a scalable self-driving system, we don't want to really rely on HD maps or anything, even though we could trivially build something using the same technology. But this is mostly for auto-labeling, and this provides precise 3D labels for all the video sequences involved in the reconstruction.
Something that's, I don't know if we touched on this much, but in terms of training, we have one of the biggest neural net training systems in the world, and that we expect to increase that capability by an order of magnitude by the end of this year, and probably another order of magnitude by the end of next year, with some combination of NVIDIA and Dojo. So I'm not sure the scale of that is quite dawned on people. It's enormous.
Maybe the final 2 questions, one from Alex and one from Chris.
Okay, Alex Potter with Piper. So I definitely want to ask Drew or anybody else up there for an update on dry battery electrode, right? So if you're going to try to overcapacitize towards cells, scale a lot of this, clearly there's a lot of moving pieces and it's a complex sort of orchestra with the supply chain, but a lot of it comes down to dry battery electrode, at least to me. So how are you trending? That was the most fascinating part of the factory tour for me, and looking through that window and seeing that this is clearly not a science project, but anything that you're willing to disclose, yields, progress, where you are today versus where you thought you were going to be. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, as you saw, right? This is a real factory making a lot of dry electrode in an automated fashion. We've made a lot of progress. It's a spectrum. We're perfectionists, and we have clear end goals, and we are every week that goes by making progress towards those end goals, whether it's speed of the tool, yield of that process, or the downstream process. We haven't stalled out yet on the rate of progress either, and that's both on the anode and the cathode side. And I think the great thing about where we are with the overcapacity that Elon mentioned is it's giving us the opportunity to experiment as we go, rather than just being stuck to something that we happened to kick off a year and a half ago and it is here. Something that Elon has said to the team many times is it's okay to scrap equipment or money. It's not okay to scrap time. So the way we've been approaching it is probabilistically, what do we think is the most likely thing to succeed? And even actually in the factory here, you saw more than one anode line. They are actually operating 2 slightly different versions of the final process step of the powder entering the tool. And it's a competition, which is going to be higher yield, which is going to perform better. And we have the luxury to be able to do that.